rid of all the net zero claptrap, nice and cheap energy. Their energy is going to be 5 times less expensive than ours. Our energy bills are going to be 5 times higher than America's. It's a joke.
No, it is. But like you said, who knows, when America sneezes, Britain catches a cold. But we'll also be looking at the first invitations to this inauguration. It's very rarely done, and Starmer wasn't there, obviously.
No, of course not. Who wants him at your party?
Oh,
He'll kill it stone deaf.
Stone deaf.
Stick with Petrie. She'll take you through to 1 a.m. You've been an amazing audience. I'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place, right here on Talk at 7 p.m. Be there.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good evening to you. It's Petrie here with you through until 1 o'clock. And of course, there is a complete and utter opportunity for you to phone in and have your say. We are, of course, going to be addressing the Trump inauguration. The 47th President of the United States has now... Well, he's there. That's it. He's there for 4 years, and he believes he's been placed there by God. And so do an awful lot of other people in the United States of America. But are they really that united in his inauguration or in his position as President of the United States? As I said to Kevin just now, there's roughly half, just under half of the American population who perhaps are not celebrating today and are not looking forward to the next 4 years. Well, we're going to be looking at that. I want to ask you to call in and tell me what you think about the President of the United States. Is he going to be the saviour of the world, or is he going to be its downfall? That is a question that many people are asking, given what's happening in Ukraine. I think he's got until Wednesday to sort that out. Didn't he say in the first 24 hours, first day? I don't know. Anyway, probably Wednesday. We'll give him Thursday morning. Before he has to sort out the issue in Ukraine. But he's also made other promises. Can he keep them all? Is it possible to introduce those tariffs, to release all of that fuel and bring down inflation? Are they even levers that he can pull? So we're going to be talking to an economist about that in just a moment. But let me run you through the rest of the programme as well. So at midnight, give me a call. Give me a call actually all the way through the programme. It's absolutely fine. Let me know what you think. Are you thrilled to see a Donald Trump? Are you excited about what he's saying? It's certainly a very different tone, isn't it, to Keir Starmer and his monotone ramblings. So is this a breath of fresh air? Do you wish we had somebody like Trump? Some would argue we did. His name was Boris Johnson. He was there at the inauguration. In fact, almost everybody was there apart from Keir Starmer. I think I got invited. No, I didn't. You know, there was a lot of people there, but our Prime Minister was not. It's not unusual. But this was an invite. There was an invitation list this time, which is very rare. So we'll be talking about that, seeing who he invited, who he didn't invite. Of course, all the tech boys were there, weren't they? Elon Musk doing what looked like a Nazi salute earlier. I'm not entirely happy with that. But Bezos was there with his fiancée. Lots of points about her wearing a bra, and only a bra, under her jacket, and saying, oh, that wasn't appropriate dress for the inauguration of the president. There was also the curly-haired one from Facebook. What's his name? I can't remember. What's his name?
Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg.
With the new haircut.
Mark Sucking Upperberg. The one that's sucking up to the
you
president.
really want to get me started on that one already.
We'll do that. That was Laurie Laird, who I'll introduce to you in just a moment. Sucking Upperberg was there as well. So, but they all took centre stage. They were obviously deemed incredibly important to Donald Trump's future. The big news, though, of the day is that TikTok is back on. It was only off for a few hours, and now it's back, and there's a possibility, of course, that Trump will allow it to stay. So, look, we've got a lot to unpick, looking at some of the executive orders. Where's he going to go? What's he going to do? How important are these executive orders? Are they absolutely law straight away? Laurie Laird will give us all of that information. Other guests that we have throughout the show this evening. Laurie is with us to go through the papers. It'll all be Trump, I imagine, on the front pages. We're heading to the West Coast to talk to Ryan Harris, who's a journalist and a broadcaster in California, and to the East Coast to hook up with Bill Keeler, the wonderful host of First News with Keeler on WIBX Radio in New York. So all of that is to come. We're going to be getting some different points of view, some different voices, but that is what it is about. This is not an echo chamber. Well, I'm not. An echo chamber. So we will be taking your calls, whichever way you want to go. I will talk to you. 03444991000. So I'm legally obliged to tell you that calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you back. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. The other question I have for you really is, do you fear for our relationship with America going forward? Is there a concern for you that this whole row with Musk and Trump will see us on the back foot when it comes to negotiating any sort of good deals with America? And have we slipped? I mean, we used to be the American poodle, didn't we? We were referred to by one of the presidents as their poodle, and others the 52nd state. So where are we on that? Do you think Canada's the 51st, obviously, but do you think that we will have a good outcome with the United States of America? Apparently, Keir Starmer is going to force himself into Washington in a couple of weeks' time. It's already been delayed. He wanted to go sooner, but he's already been told that's not happening. So apparently he's going to go at the end of March. That's what I've heard. And the corridors about the gossip in the corridors of power. Right, let me introduce you to, she doesn't really need an introduction, my favourite little American, Laurie Laird, economist and US political commentator.
I love not needing an introduction.
But then I give you one anyway.
It's okay. It's okay. Does that mean I can go by my first name, like Madonna?
Yeah, you can. Well, there's quite a few lorries around. There's quite a few on the roads out there.
Oh, so. All right, I'm going to give you that. I'll let you have it. I'll let you have it.
Let me have that one.
It wasn't that bad, actually.
Yeah, thanks. Whereas Petrie's, we're very rare. Now, let's talk about the inauguration. Okay, it had to be held inside for security reasons. And that's not really that surprising.
And it was freezing. But it's meant to be under freezing in the U.S. for the next couple of days. But it looked so jammed up, didn't it? I mean, everybody...
It didn't have the glamour.
I agree with you. It didn't have sort of the majesty. It felt a little bit...
like a town hall.
Tacky.
Yeah.
Although in keeping with everything about this administration. But the thing that I found so striking, and you hit on it a little bit, is the placement of the tech bros, the placement of these multi-billionaires that were a little bit dubious about Donald Trump, very dubious about Donald Trump 4 years ago, right? When he was...
What did Musk call him again? I mean, he was not very complimentary at all.
No, I mean, all of Wall Street wanted to distance themselves from Donald Trump. This tech community, no one wanted to be around Donald Trump after that rioting on the Capitol on January 6th. That's all forgot. I mean, that is completely forgot. Who did we have on that dais? The richest men in the entire world. We know Elon Musk and Donald Trump have a bit of a bromance right now. If we get time, let's talk about how long that will last, right? I mean, two really big egos. But we had Jeff Bezos, the head of Amazon, or the ex-head of Amazon, now owns the Washington Post, a liberal newspaper, but Jeff Bezos decided not to endorse a candidate in the run-up to the election. That's really unusual. We had Sundar Pichai, the head of Google, an immigrant, but let's talk about that as well.
A different kind of immigrant, rich one.
Well, but this could be a problem with various people who are advising Trump, because this is a coalition that we got the rich people and the MAGA people who came together to elect Trump. But are their interests all that aligned? I mean, some of these tech guys are very pro-immigration, so pro that they actually are immigrants. Will that actually gel with the less prosperous people who form such a key part of that MAGA core? I mean, how long can that coalition stay together?
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting when you look at that, but you've forgotten one other component to his core, and that is the ultra-fundamentalist Christians.
Yeah,
that he owes a lot to, and they are going to make sure he delivers.
But we've seen a little bit less of them than we did 8 years ago, didn't we? Know that part of the electorate is very supportive of Trump. We know that they don't like anything. We know that cohort is very frustrated with the Democrats, and a lot of Americans are frustrated with the Democrats. There is a feeling that there's a lot of identity politics there. I think that's the sort of thing that the Democrats really need to look at while they're licking their wounds over the next 4 years. No evidence that they are thinking of doing that. I mean, Joe Biden still saying, if had I run, I would have won the election. I mean, crazy, isn't it? But yes, that evangelical cohort is an important part of Donald Trump's voter base.
It's incredibly important.
Despite his record with, wives and women and...
Yeah. But the interesting thing as well for me, I was watching very keenly the audience, and of course the hall was packed with, largely with Trump supporters. But it was interesting to see the former presidents and their facial responses to some of the things that were saying. I mean, Clinton at one point, his jaw dropped. I think it was something to do with inflation or fuel. Where he's literally and people, when they rose in celebration, Biden and Harris only stood up when he talked about peace.
Yep, that's the
and the return of the hostages.
Absolutely.
That's the only time they stood up.
But to see standing ovations at an inaugural address,
well, he paused long enough to wait for them.
Yeah, I mean it was almost mandatory, wasn't it?
It was.
But watching that speech and then watching this second inaugural speech, because not that space, the rotunda, when they took it indoors, wasn't big enough to hold everybody who had been invited. So Donald Trump very kindly did a second inaugural speech in what they called the overflow room, which actually lasted longer than the first speech. But all I could think was, someone needs to tell Donald Trump that the campaign's over, and he won. Because both of these speeches looked like campaign speeches. He can't run again. He is term limited, but it felt like a campaign speech. But back to seeing some of those ex-presidents. I mean, at one point, Joe Biden was covering his hand.
He
his
laughed
mouth was his hand. He was smirking. Hillary Clinton was smirking.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a good look to be smirking.
It didn't feel like there were a lot of grown-ups in the room.
But they looked. Kamala Harris looked visibly angry.
She did. Did you see when she met? It's conventional for first the outgoing vice presidential couple to greet the incoming vice presidential couple. My God, the body language between Kamala Harris and her husband Doug Emhoff, and the Vances. Oh my word, I mean, it was hostile, absolutely hostile. And lots of reports that the typical invitation to tea in the days before the changing of the guard, Kamala Harris did not extend that invitation. I can't verify that, but there's been a lot of, pretty well-sourced reporting on that. Yeah, it looks a little churlish.
It did look a little churlish, but I guess to be expected, you can't expect, because I mean, he did spend a good deal of that speech trashing the Biden administration.
And that's unusual.
And that's unusual. That's unusual. But also, he's not going to applaud that, right? He's not going to stand and go, well, yeah, we were absolutely dreadful.
But there is space for looking at America longer term, because Donald Trump did start out by saying, I want to talk about unity, and then went to trash all of his opponents.
Everything about the last 4 years.
I was watching him last night. So he did a rally last night that looked very much like both of the inauguration speeches that we've seen today. And he looked relaxed. He was sort of bopping away to the village people. And I thought that, we know that angry Donald Trump, that victim, that aggrieved Donald Trump. That seemed to be gone. And he can certainly claim a mandate that he didn't claim 8 years ago.
He won the popular vote.
Yeah, he won the popular vote. And remember how rankled he was about not winning the popular vote 8 years ago.
He was livid about that.
He has a mandate. He has won. There's no ambiguity here. So that combined with the fact that he's term limited, and I wondered if this could be a time for him to be a little more gracious. But in that second speech that he made, he went straight in. I mean, he really took Nancy Pelosi, the ex-Democratic Speaker of the House, down, claimed that she offered her troops on the 6th of January 4 years ago, and she decided not to accept them when people were rioting on Capitol Hill. Now, that's not possible. The Speaker of the House cannot command the military.
No.
There's no provision to do that. It is untrue. And it was interesting to see him. He went into Liz Cheney, one of his political opponents, a Republican, who was very adamant that he didn't, in fact, win the election last time around. He's always had, his sights on her. In fact, once said that she should maybe face a firing squad. Those grievances came up today, even though Donald Trump is the clear winner of this election.
He's not going to let things drop.
Seems to, at the moment, have affected some unity in his party, and he has a majority, a tiny majority, but a majority in both houses of Congress. He is in a very strong position for a president, yet he still feels like a victim.
Yeah. Well, look, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and address what he's going to do next. Back in a second.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, and a very good evening to you. This is the day that America gets its new president. So Donald Trump, 45th and now 47th president, non-consecutive president. I think that's the first time that's happened, is it, Laurie?
It's happened once before.
Once before.
It was 1849. Late.
Yeah, I can be forgiven. It's 1849.
Absolutely. You only have to remember things in this century.
In this century, thank you. Phew. Right, so he's the 47th President of the United States. The inauguration obviously took place earlier on today. I think currently he's at some ball or party. He's going from one place to the inauguration parade. It was interesting. Laurie Laird is with me in the studio. It was also interesting when they crushed everybody into the rotunda there and where it was all happened. And clearly they hadn't figured out how the military choir was going to get down the aisles. Did you see? They just had to barge. They were like a tank, just barging through the crowd. And all these people in the alley, because they were so crushed in there.
Lots of things went wrong. They also had...
Oh, the music didn't start.
Carrie Underwood, who was meant to sing, did in fact sing, I think it was America the Beautiful, but it was meant to be accompanying music.
It was taken away, wasn't it?
And it just didn't start, and finally she actually handled it quite well, said, just remind me of the words, people, sing along with me.
But I just thought it was that they hadn't, the military choir. And then Trump did look a little surprised there were so many women in the military. I thought he was like looking at them going, I got there's at least 20.
Well, remember his nominee for defense secretary does not believe that women should serve in combat roles.
True. Oh, yeah. But anyway, what's next for Donald Trump? Look, he said he's going to hit the ground running. He's going to, before the end of the day, he will have signed 200
executive orders.
That's what he said. How many has he signed so far?
Good question. You probably want a better answer than that.
I do.
I'm struggling to understand what he has signed so far, because we're getting we're getting news organizations saying he's about to sign this, he's about to sign this. I'm not aware.
When does he have the time?
And 200's a lot. He's going to have a very tired arm.
Lots of pens.
He signed a couple after his first inauguration address and before the second. I don't believe that he has signed anything more than that. And in that lot was nothing of huge consequence. There was one on in making sure that all of the flags are flying at all the way up full mast on Inauguration Day, because all of the flags in Washington, D.C. have been at half mast because we're still mourning for Jimmy Carter.
Right.
So that's one that was signed. A little bit uncontroversial.
Okay.
And what we're getting is leaks all over the place right now from his team saying, okay, well, he's about to sign this, he's about to sign that. But as far as I can tell, monitoring everything I'm monitoring, there hasn't been anything of consequence.
So there's nothing about pardoning the January 6th
We're waiting
prisoners.
for that, and we're assuming that that is going to happen. And Today. And there are loads of supporters of people who are
outside the prison
waiting for this. What has been leaked is that non-violent prisoners will be pardoned. Those who have violent convictions will have their sentence commuted, which implies that all of them will be released at some point today. We're hearing that there may be some repealing of DEI, diversity,
inclusion, something else.
What's the E? It's not environment, is it? This is for hiring stuff. But these are the provisions that
equality.
There we go. Thank you. There have been leaks that these will be repealed, but nothing of consequence yet. The one thing that is consequential, and this hasn't been announced, but there's an app that immigrants who are applying for asylum use to make an appointment so that when they cross into the U.S., they can say to the guards, look, I have an appointment with an asylum judge at such and such a time. That has been disabled. That was disabled a couple of hours ago. And we even have people on serving members of the Border Patrol saying, this could be problematic because these people may enter anyway. So now we have a problem with people entering, and there is no procedure for them once they cross the border.
Now, Trump has called in a national emergency on the southern border, right?
He said he was going to that. That was, again, part of his...
But he hasn't
signed an executive order
Right.
yet. That will be one that the courts may have to sort out, what constitutes a national emergency. Presidents do have a lot of latitude on that, but I suspect that was one that lawyers will insist courts take a look at. He talked about that in the first inauguration speech. As of yet, I'm not aware that he has signed that. There seems to be a lull in the signing, and he's going to have to get on with it if he's going to sign 200 of
Yeah,
these.
it really is. And also, of course, the other big announcement was on illegals, was on rounding up these illegals. I think there was supposed to be some team in Chicago that was starting to do that.
Again, that was...
But they were halted.
That was hinting until a couple of days ago that yes, this could happen as soon as today, possibly tomorrow, that there would be teams that would go into cities, and you're right, Chicago was mentioned as one of the first cities, and the impression was that officials would go door to door and from workplace to workplace to round these people up. Now, there wasn't a mention of this in either of the addresses earlier. The focus on immigration seemed to be preventing newcomers.
But he also talked about getting rid of all the criminal illegals that are in the country.
and that was a mention. That's not to say that he will not do this at some point down the road. His base, the people who voted for him, immigration was a very big deal. He has essentially a mandate for this, whether it's legal or not. He is going to have to show this base that he is serious about addressing their concerns.
He did mention, didn't he, that he would end capture and release.
Yes, he did. He did mention that,
which implies capture and internment.
It implies people captured and sort of encouraged to make their way back across the border from where they came.
But they won't be just registered and then go, right, come back and see us in a couple of years' time when we've got a date for you. They'll be caught and either encouraged back or presumably interned.
But there's not a lot of space for... I mean, this is not hugely well thought out. The facilities don't seem to exist. We know that Mexico has said that we are setting up camps. We expect to be receiving many, many more people who are being turned away at the border. But whether the apparatus exists to detain more people isn't entirely clear right now.
But he also talked about sending soldiers to the southern border. And what is the implication of that as well? Because, they're not at war with Mexico. To see armed soldiers on the American side of that border...
And he spoke of invasions on the border in a very dark, dystopian way. It's possible.
What are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to shoot people?
Perhaps that the armed soldiers on the border will be considered a deterrent. That'll be difficult legally. There'll be, I think, a lot of legal action. Is the U.S. military, is this part of their duty? What constitutes an invasion? I think courts will have to figure this out. And this is the thing with governing by what's called executive order. This is a way for a president, and it's not just Donald Trump that has used these. Joe Biden used these. Barack Obama used quite a bit of these. If Donald Trump carries out on his intentions, he'll be using them a lot more than his predecessors. But in this era of divided government, this has been a technique that presidents have used. But if you bypass Congress, there's another section of government, that's the judiciary, and not all of these are legal.
So he doesn't have overarching power, is what you're saying, just to say we're going to round up all the illegals.
In some areas he does. One thing he has discussed is ending what's called birthright citizenship, which means that anyone born in the U.S., regardless of the immigration status of their parents, gets American citizenship. He didn't mention this today in his speech, but it's something he's talked about
a lot.
A lot, right? And his base loves this. But it's enshrined in the Constitution. It's in the 14th Amendment. So he can sign an order, but this will go straight to court, and it will be I can't see that a court could side with Donald Trump with something
over
that's
the Constitution.
over the Constitution.
But he did say today, didn't he, that he would obey the Constitution. He made some reference to the Constitution because he's got no choice, right?
He's got no choice.
Yeah.
And even though he has loaded the Supreme Court hasn't let him have it all his way. There are 6 out of 9 justices that are thought to be right of center. He's had a couple of victories, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't won everything. And I'm digressing a bit, but you mentioned earlier on TikTok. We had the head of TikTok at the inauguration in a really prominent place. Donald Trump is a new convert to TikTok, but he's really supportive now.
Oh, because he reckons that's where he got a lot of his youth votes.
Well, quite possibly. TikTok, as you said, is operational now. I'm not a lawyer, but an operational TikTok now seems to be against the law. The Supreme Court has said that it can't operate beyond the 19th.
Donald Trump can order that law is not enforced. It may be
but he
a
hasn't.
law, but he hasn't.
But he hasn't.
We'll
So
wait and
TikTok
see.
is operating illegally because there's no one sitting at a desk to enforce this.
It just depends that if those people who are operating this in the US believe that they won't be prosecuted if Trump says no, don't.
Well,
follow
he's at a
suit.
party. I don't think anybody right now is going to look into it. I think in the next few days he will find a way to put a stay on that.
He will, yeah.
And he's looking for an American buyer
I'm
for
glad
it.
because a lot of my favourite dog videos come from America on TikTok.
How much time a day do you look at TikTok?
No, not that often. But I do like a talking dog video. They make me laugh.
Oh, who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Right, we've got to take a quick break. But after the break, we're going to be talking to the fabulous Bill Keeler.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, and welcome back. It's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And of course, there's only one story about today, and that is the 47th President of the United States was sworn in today in a kind of I don't know. It wasn't very impressive, was it? And in fact, he was sworn in about 2 seconds. I'm sure it took longer last time. Anyway, we have been looking at that, looking at what he might do next. He has promised that he'll be signing 200 executive orders before the end of play today. We reckon he's got to get a wriggle on in order to do that. And I don't know where he's going to find the time. I think he's watching the Inauguration parade at the moment, looking at all of his soldiers now that he is Commander-in-Chief. And you'll have noticed that actually during the national anthem, where he drew a salute, as he is entitled to do, whereas the rest of them put their hand to their chest because they are not military. There you go. Now, we need to find out what people think from coast to coast. So we've decided there's only one place to go when you need to find out what's going on the East Coast, and that is to Bill Keeler, host of First News with Keeler on WIBX Radio in New York. Bill, a good evening to you. How are you?
Good evening. Well, I've spent most of the day talking family and friends off the bridge, bringing them back. There are those that are happy today, and there are those that are devastated. It's a very interesting day in New York and in the United States.
In the United States, yeah, I suggested that actually there is almost half of the population. Look, he won the popular vote, he won the college vote, he won all of it, which he's very happy about this time. But there are still people who did not, would not, and could not, and never will be able to vote for someone like Donald Trump. So how are they feeling today? Look, it's a case of buckle up. You're in for a bumpy ride, isn't it?
Yeah, especially after, I think after today. So here are the numbers. 2 million more votes in the popular vote. Trump received 2 million more than Kamala Harris. That was 49.8% to 48.3%. It gives you an idea that we are right down the middle. It is a very, very divided nation right now. And for those who maybe are considered never Trumpers, or those who would not vote for Donald Trump, I think today is devastating. If you have a child who is or a sibling or a friend who is gay or transgender, there's something in that speech today that upset a lot of people. There's a lot that came out of that speech. It was tough to keep up.
Look, this is the situation now, isn't it? That he does need to pull the rest of the country with him. He does need unity in the country in order to pull off what he wants to pull off. But there was no indication of that, was there, in his speeches that he gave today? You thought that there'd be a little bit more grace, maybe, a little less, they got it all wrong, we're going to put it all right. It didn't feel like he was starting off his presidency in the terms of dragging the rest of the country with him, pulling with him those people who did not vote for him.
If you've ever been in a situation where you've had something really bad to say about somebody and they were standing right behind you, you always feel, if you feel a little uncomfortable, and usually you stop. In this case, Joe Biden was sitting right behind him and basically saying, this country has gone to crap, no one respects us. The world is over, but I'm here to save it all. And meanwhile, Joe Biden's just sitting back there. I was hoping at this point that he is senile, that he cannot comprehend, that he cannot understand what Trump is saying, because it had to be pretty uncomfortable.
Well, Kamala certainly understood what Trump was saying. And she, I mean, literally, she looked, I thought she looked like she was going to throw up at any point. Very stony-faced, a little bit shocked, maybe, even though this was decided some while ago. And look, a lot of people think she was an unworthy candidate, that she was the problem here.
No doubt.
No doubt about it, right? Kamala who? You know, and that the Democrats brought this upon themselves. But still, if you want to be a unity president, how does he now do that, having completely blown up the Democrats and anyone who may have chosen to vote Democrat?
Well, he has an interesting pass right now, right? Because he has the House, he has the Senate. Some say, I heard your previous guest, and she's absolutely correct, he has the Supreme Court, but the court has not completely sided the court justices oftentimes surprise presidents, and that has definitely happened here. But so he has a year and a half to 2 years to be able to get a lot of stuff done. Although his majority is very slim, there are Republicans he could lose who are moderate Republicans. So there's a lot going on here. He's going to try to get as much done as he can in this first 2 years. But there was no unity in that speech. That was probably, I saw one historian today say that he felt, based on, he's a history professor, that this was the most partisan presidential inauguration speech ever given in the history of the United States. I'm not sure if that's true, but I can tell you it was partisan.
But can he rule over such a divided country? He obviously seems to think he can, but there will be individual states, won't there, that will give him a headache over this partisan attitude. You're all wrong and I'm all right. Can he actually run all of these states with the view that only the Republican states are right?
Well, this country is based on states' rights, and that's very important to us. And the thought that he's going to be able to get rid of, with an executive order, naturalized citizenship, just it's the 14th Amendment. He can't just do that signing a document. So, however, with everything, there's always an attorney on one side and an attorney on the other side saying, well, that's not what they meant when they passed the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. So the other part of your question is about states. So you have your blue states and your red states. There are a lot of blue states, and New York is very interesting because New York, it's really more, as much as it's about states, it's really about population. So your cities tend to be very liberal. Your rural areas tend to be quite conservative. And I imagine it's that way around the world, and you're familiar with that. In New York, you have some big population areas. Obviously, the New York City metro area is the biggie. And but you go upstate, and you're in Trump country. So it's very, very interesting. So the answer to your question, I went a long way around the tree there, and I apologize. The answer is he's going to get a lot of resistance. There's no doubt about it.
Okay, so he's going to get a lot of resistance, but he has made some bold statements today in his speech. Not all of the statements that perhaps we were expecting him to make, but certainly the idea that he can just reclaim the Panama Canal has already been rebuffed by the Panamanians as saying that is not going to happen. Putting soldiers on the southern border, I don't know how legal that is going to turn out to be.
That is going to be legal either.
Yeah.
You have Greenland.
He didn't mention that today, though. He didn't.
He did not mention that, although my wife and I are planning a trip to the Gulf of America. It's beautiful down there in the wintertime. Get away from the
much better than the Gulf of Mexico. It's much nicer.
That's true. It's true. Yeah. I mean, if I didn't watch some of this with my own two eyes, I would tell you you're lying to me. This never happened, and I don't know of an author that would be able to come up with this for a movie. So some of this stuff is just mind-blowing. I think it was very hurtful to say there are two sexes in the United States. You're either male or you're female. Meanwhile, there's a transgender and a gay population, and I don't understand it all, to be perfectly honest with you. But who am I to have to understand that? If you're someone who identifies differently than the way you were born, who am I to tell you any differently? And now it seems that we have the U.S. government that's going to say, you're going to have to decide. You're either male or female. And
well,
by the way,
I did actually,
the way you were born.
I did actually joke to a friend of mine earlier, but subsequently I don't think it's that funny, just saying we're going to have lots of asylum seekers coming from America who are perhaps transgender. There's also a question over whether gay marriage will still be sanctified in American law in certain states. So, you know, there will be, if the ultra-Christians get their say with Trump, there will be quite a few things that change to remove freedoms.
Yeah, and there were some comments there about religion and the fact that we are a Christian nation. That's how our God. That was very important. And I just have to say, if you really look to history, our forefathers were seeking religious freedom, which is why this specifically was not written into our Constitution. Our forefathers chose not to have a specific language. English is not our official language in the United States, officially. These are all things that, but we can rewrite history. I mean, certainly our coins and our money, it says, "In God we trust," but that didn't come about until well into the 1900s. So, you know.
Yeah, what I found fascinating was the history lesson of the American forefathers roaming across America, taking unclaimed land, which I thought was an interesting take on the indigenous population that would have had that land taken from them. But anyway, like you said, history is often repeated and reported by the victor. So there you go. Yeah. Bill,
if you say it enough times, I do believe it becomes...
I did think, I thought there were people in America. But there you go. Bill, it's always a delight and an honour to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Bill Keeler, host of First News with Keeler on WIBX Radio in New York. So, different views, different places in the United States. Now, though, we're going to take a quick break and we're heading to the West Coast to see what they think there.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, and a good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you, reflecting really on the inauguration today of the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump. And we've just got the view of, I mean, some would say the liberal elite, but half of the population did not vote for Trump. Right? They didn't. And as much as you're all thinking, well, this is stupid, why are these people having their voice? Because that is what you do. You give everybody their voice, even if you don't agree with them, especially, actually, if you don't agree with them. So it is good to hear the voices of people who do not want Trump, because all day you've heard from people who do want Trump, and we will be talking to people who do want Trump. It's just right that we listen to the other side too. At least I think that. But anyway, there you go. Let's get our view now from the West Coast. Now, Ryan Harris is joining me now, journalist and broadcaster in California. He's not missed an inauguration in 40 years. Ryan, good to have you with me. Getting a lot of stick from people going, oh, you're being narrow-minded. Actually, I'm being open-minded and listening to all views on this programme. What did you make of this inauguration?
Well, firstly, greetings from the leader of the headache states, California, where they are prepared to fight if the Trump administration comes up with policies that they don't like here in California, which is a good bet. I have to agree with your previous guest. A lot of it felt uncomfortable because we all knew Joe Biden was sitting right there listening to all of this. And at the same time, I wasn't surprised by that speech. It was very right-leaning and played on a lot of things that Donald Trump says that he plans to do.
But that's what you'd expect, right? I mean, he was voted in on that mandate, on those views. So you would expect him to drill down into them.
Well, you would think so, but the one that often we flash back to is John F. Kennedy. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And other presidents too, Ronald Reagan, for example. Who was more sort of a brighter outlook for the future here, where Donald Trump says, we're going after this group and we're going after that group, and I think a lot of people ended the day even more afraid than they were yesterday, because and again, your previous guest mentioned the transgender community. They're certainly nervous because they're going to be worried about losing their gender-affirming health care. There's a lot of folks with these mass deportations planned that are worried they're going to be shipped out of the country. So, he wants unity. But then later, and the other thing too that he mentioned was, that it was Liberation Day, and he kept talking about liberties, but he's talking about taking liberties away from certain groups. So there are, as you said, a significant number of people in this country not happy.
But again, a lot of what he said about there are only men and women, a lot of people completely believe that. He's talking about stopping transgender women from taking part in women's sport if I presume if they've been through male puberty. I, for one, support that, and most people do. But it's almost a conflation, though, isn't it? Of if you agree that trans shouldn't do sport, then you also agree that you shouldn't do a female sport, then you also agree that they shouldn't have any rights. And that seems to be the extreme to which he's gone with this. But then his base probably completely believe that. You saw them all stand and give him an ovation on the point of there are men and there are women and there is nothing else. That is it. All of that wokery is gone. A lot of people support that. In fact, they would support that here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to your point, I'm one that really has concerns about people assigned male at birth who then become transgender females participating in sports. I'm concerned about the danger there. But I've also had several trans friends over the years who say, I didn't feel right in my own skin until I started on hormone therapy. So I'm one who feels that we could probably strike a balance there. But, the Trump supporters are also entitled to their beliefs that, they don't believe in anything other than two genders, a male and a female. One of the other concerns that I keep rolling around in my mind is that, Donald Trump has threatened to withhold emergency aid, like in the case of the fires in Los Angeles right now, if California doesn't conform. And, they want to put conditions on that aid. That one I have a problem with because, we all here in California pay a significant portion of income tax. California pays nearly 13% of the entire nation's income tax, and we pay more than we get back from the federal government. Well, that's our money and we want it back. That's what it's for. So, there are some things there. The other thing that really stuck out about that, of course, because it was a smaller venue, it was packed very tightly with people who were definitely big time Trump supporters. All of the leaders of the major tech companies were there, not just Elon Musk and not just Mark Zuckerberg, but the head of Google, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, and a whole slew of them. Even the guy that's the head of TikTok, which
Yeah,
is
that was bizarre.
been a major mess in this country right now. In fact, I was thinking about it. My grandparents' generation, who had to take on Adolf Hitler, would say, really, we're concerned about losing an app on our phones? Really, this has been big news all week, that's all everybody's talking about. So in a lot of ways, it's a very bizarre situation that we're dealing with.
So, looking forward, he's going to start banging out executive orders. We know that. I think he said somewhere in the region 200 before the close of day, although that may not happen. And as I was saying earlier to Bill, there will be resistance from some states, your own being one of them. Do you think he's really got to quickly get to grip with the idea of being a unity president, or doesn't he care? He just believes that his base is so powerful that he doesn't need to bring the other states with him.
Well, and I think that's just it. You nailed it. He doesn't care. Donald Trump wants to act the way he wants to act as president. He wants to take those actions. The number I heard was more than 100, 200, I don't know. But, they did certainly have many of them written and prepared and ready for signature on day one. So all he's got to do is, knock out his signature there. But there will be great resistance. The California state legislature right now is in a special session that began as a special session only to focus on ways to fight policies from the Trump administration that go against what they would consider California values. And in the legislature, we have what's known as a supermajority of Democrats, the liberals. So even if the governor vetoes a bill, and they're all Democrats, the legislature has enough votes to override the veto. So they're prepared for a fight.
And can you see that being echoed around some other of the blue states, that they are going to resist Donald Trump? Because a lot of people say, "Oh, hang on, he won the election. He is your president, whether you like it or not. It was a democratic vote. He won the college votes. He won the popular vote. He's won. Get over it."
I suspect in states that have Democratic majorities, you probably remember I also lived in Seattle, Washington. They've got close to a supermajority there. And there are other states that are considered blue states. But at the same time, like if you look at the electoral map broken down by county, California has a surprising amount of red. New York has a surprising amount of red. And to Bill Keeler's point, you focus on the cities and those tend to be blue. And what we saw was a lot more red when you go county by county in the electoral map, and the shift toward support for Trump in a lot of areas was huge. So that's why Donald Trump feels like he has a mandate. If you look at that map, it's awfully red.
He has a mandate, whether you like it or not, right? It was the same with Brexit here. There were a lot of people who were very unhappy with that, a lot of people who were happy with that. There is, democracy here in action. And with democracy, there's always a winner and there's always a loser. Is there anything that Trump can do you think, that would persuade people to give him, he already has the mandate, but to allow him that mandate, even in areas where they didn't vote for him?
Well, I think there's two things. Bill also talked about immigration, and we talked about the mass deportations. If he can get prices down at the grocery store, the other reason they voted for Donald Trump then he'll get a lot more support. If prices stay high, that support's going to erode quickly.
It's as simple as that, you think, that he's just got to bring inflation. But he's not really in charge of inflationary pressures.
Well, that's the thing, and that's what cost the Democrats. They kept talking about, oh, well, inflation is down to just over 2%, which is usually where it is, where in normal times. But that hasn't translated to lower prices for goods and services. Those prices remain inflated. And the Democrats were seen as tone deaf because they were talking about low inflation, but not seeing what it means as a reality for somebody like me who goes to the grocery store and is paying $5.50 for a gallon of milk.
Well, we'll see what happens next. It's always a joy to talk to you, though, Ryan. Thank you very much indeed. Ryan Harris, journalist and broadcaster in California. Right, coming up.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, it's great to have your company, and with me is the economist and US political commentator, better known as my FLA, my favourite little American, Laurie Laird. Laurie, it is not really surprising, is it, that the front pages as well are dealing with mostly the inauguration of the 47th President of the United States. The golden age starts now, is what he said. This is the day of liberation, he also said. And payback time as Biden's record ripped to shreds right in front of him. The Starmer left in dark until President makes the first move. Now, let's talk about the guest list that was at this inauguration of Donald Trump. I didn't realise this, but it is unusual to have...
It's not typical. It isn't at all.
You'd think you'd only want your mates there, wouldn't you? Why would you?
I mean, it's a peculiarly American thing. It is a transfer of power. Donald Trump...
who normally goes then? Do you just turn up?
People who in the American government, families,
right.
Friends of people, but it's not like a state funeral.
Right.
It's not that kind of thing, but there was some international representation. The one that the administration seemed to be most concerned about was who to invite from the Chinese government and how high level representation might turn up. And it turned out it was the vice president. It's not a name that I'm familiar with, but it was pretty high level representation. So that shows you.
From China.
I know, I can't say that, but every time I hear it,
yeah,
you think Donald Trump. But
that's good that they were invited, right?
It shows you that Donald Trump's China policy is a little bit inconsistent. And cognitive dissonance is not a problem with Donald Trump, but it does raise questions about tariffs that he wants to impose on Chinese goods. And let's get to that later on, because that was something that he didn't spend that much time on today, and it has been such a key part of his campaign. But it looks like he's giving every indication that he would be happy to talk to China. But where we're going, Keir Starmer clearly wasn't invited, but there was some British reputation there. Boris Johnson, seeing that moppy head, and not only was Boris Johnson there at the inauguration, he was at the church service very early this morning, which was really quite intimate. There weren't many people there. And there was this shot of all of the tech bros, Mark Zuckerberg, not known for, these are not guys that you think of as big worshipers. So Mark Zuckerberg, all the guys we mentioned, Jeff Bezos and their partners, and Boris Johnson. It was just an odd collection of people.
It is odd, and a lot of people have spoken quite a bit about the snub that Starmer got, and it's hard to see it as anything other than a snub when Boris Johnson was clearly invited. I think that
it's a semi-snub. I mean, Emmanuel Macron was not invited. There was the only other European leader who was there, I believe, was Giorgia Meloni of Italy, and she's fairly right of center and has really worked very hard to ingratiate herself both with Trump and with Elon Musk. She has said, I don't really want a European satellite system, but we're going to get Elon Musk's Starlink, because it'll be better and faster and shinier.
Cheaper and yeah.
So we can take this either way, but I think where the snub is not so much that Starmer wasn't invited, but that both Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson seem to be.
And Liz Truss.
Was Liz Truss there as well?
Yeah.
Well, she has developed quite a following in conservative circles in the U.S.
Oh, and Priti Patel.
Oh, I do remember Priti Patel.
Yeah,
I didn't know about Liz Truss, but I do remember Priti Patel. Yeah, okay. I take away the half snub. That's a serious snub.
Yeah, it's a snub. And that doesn't bode well, because apparently as well, Starmer was suggesting that he was going to go and see Trump in Washington in the next couple of weeks, and he's been told no. It's been pushed. It's been pushed away.
Labour's doing the splits with this. I mean, watching David Lammy.
They're trying to ride two horses.
Yeah,
aren't they?
and watching David Lammy try and excuse things that Elon Musk says about Keir Starmer, needing to be in prison after all of what happened, his actions when he was head of the Crown Prosecution Service and all of the grooming gangs. Watching David Lammy quizzed on a Sunday show a few weeks ago, try and sort of skate out of that. I mean, Labour does have some issues there, but I think what's really interesting is a report in the Sunday Times that Donald Trump might be minded to not accept the nomination of Peter Mandelson as the UK's ambassador to the US. And I read that and thought, seems like interference in another country's foreign policy, but he does, in the same way that anyone who is nominated here to the Court of St. James, that can also be rejected. Yeah. It's possible Donald Trump could do that.
And that would be interesting. I just want to know why he would do that, and what the political gain would be for him to do that as a show of power.
Particularly because Peter Mandelson, who's a pretty canny operator, he can be controversial, but he has said Nigel Farage, in terms of his relationship with the U.S. administration, has a role to play here. He can be valuable, hasn't distanced himself from the Trump whisperer. So far hasn't said anything that's particularly offensive.
Well, he's upset Musk, though, hasn't he? Farage and Musk had a public spat.
Oh, no, but Farage says it's all okay now.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's all okay.
The other thing is that we did want to talk about, and the Times has addressed this, that Biden issues pardons to close family as his final act as the outgoing president. Now he said in 2020 and in 24 that he would never do this, that he would not do this, and yet he did.
This one, I'm fascinated by this. I mean, I've been obsessed with this all day. And Biden issued 2 sets of pardons today, and we've discussed this. This is within the privilege of a president can do this at any time. They tend to do it toward the end of their term. And we discussed when Joe Biden pardoned his son for not only crimes that he had committed, there was tax evasion, but any in the future that may be uncovered in the future.
Yeah.
Pretty controversial. He said he was not going to do this. He was adamant. The first set of Biden pardons came out early this morning. He pardoned, you'll remember Anthony Fauci, who was sort of almost the country's uncle during COVID.
Yeah.
And for much of that period, a lot of Americans felt quite fond of Fauci. He fell out with the Republican administration over, it was a lot to do with mask mandates, vaccinations, and he fell out with the sort of right bit of the party, became sort of PNG with the Republican Party. He was pardoned for anything he may do in the future. All of the members of the January 6th investigative committee were pardoned in case the administration tends to go after these people. That's controversial. You can almost get on board with that simply because Trump has been so very negative about members of that committee, particularly a woman called Liz Cheney, who was quite a right-wing Republican, but still didn't allow, she didn't support that the election was stolen and was part of that January 6th committee. Trump can't bear her, and in fact was complaining about her today in his second inauguration speech, has sort of hinted that it wouldn't be so bad if she were to go for a firing squad. So you can almost see why Biden was minded to do that. And what he said was, I don't think these people are guilty, but the reputational and financial risk to fight accusations that may be false can be very difficult.
And also he said he didn't want any sort of revenge cases brought against his family members and things like that.
Well, let's get to the family members, because this is so much more egregious. A couple of hours later, he pardoned his sister, 2 of his brothers, and his brother's spouses for anything that may happen in the future. And this was announced just as J.D. Vance was taking his oath of office.
It's a good time to bury bad news.
And that felt sneaky, particularly from someone who has been so critical of the way that Donald Trump has and is expected to weaponize the law. I was almost there with the January 6th committee because of the language that incoming appointees, the incoming head of the FBI, says he has a hit list of people he wants to go after.
Yeah.
Almost can get on board with that, but for these family members, and to announce it as
everybody's busy.
Everybody's busy,
basically.
And you're 3 minutes away from being out of office here. The optics there are not great, particularly for someone like Joe Biden, who has tried to set up a big contrast between the way he views things and the way Donald Trump does.
But then it just plays into everybody just going, well, see, they're all the same.
Well, this is difficult. Watching Joe Biden go today, this is a man with a really distinguished career. He's been in Washington for 50 years. He was the youngest senator at the time ever elected. And the past 6 months have so very much tarnished that reputation.
We're just waiting.
I see
if I
you
look a little distracted. Donald Trump, 47th President of the United States, is set to speak at the Inauguration parade. I'm just going to keep an eye on that, which I may just cut you off and cross over there very, very quickly. We do have a feed.
And I understand there's a desk set up, and one of his associates has apparently a stack of paper, and this will be where he starts to sign
That's
things.
right, because he'd already originally said that he would sign them at the podium. The second he was inaugurated, that's when he would start signing them. But if he starts to sign them here and tells us what he's signing, that's going to be
I can't see. I'm trying to figure out what I'm looking at by what you're what you're watching.
The middle screen.
Well, I think what we're expecting is, and I'm pulling this together from various sources, an executive order on recognizing just two sexes. You mentioned that a few moments ago. One on calling a national emergency that will allow Donald Trump to allow planning for more oil pipelines. If we get some time, let's talk about oil. America is producing...
The energy emergency, wasn't it, that he mentioned
Yeah, except for
earlier on.
America is producing significantly more oil than Saudi Arabia. It's producing it in record amounts. Energy prices are not through the roof. I'm not seeing an emergency there, but maybe get back to that. A national emergency on the border. He wants to call criminal cartels global terrorists, which may give him...
I don't have a problem with that. What that means
I don't know what that
that
means for people's everyday life.
Well, I suppose what it means is that he can, if they're, it means that he can attack those cartels, I think even in Mexico.
Quite possibly.
I think that's what that means, and a lot of people won't have an issue with that. I don't think. Well, the Mexicans
I don't think
might.
so. I'm not sure.
But it means they can go after them in a way that they can't at the moment.
Before.
Yeah, exactly. So that just changes the ability for the military to take a lead in destroying.
I hope we'll get some time, Petrie, to talk about things, and maybe this is for a follow-up conversation. Things that Donald Trump didn't discuss. Things that, when he talks about making America great again.
Yeah, and
things that he hasn't discussed, healthcare in the U.S. and the failures there. Problems with the U.S. educational system.
Yeah, but I suppose he only had a limited amount of time. But it like Bill was saying, there was that lacking of that great speech that indicated a way forward for America that I didn't think was there. We've got to take a quick break just in case Donald Trump stands up to talk and messes up our advertising. We can't have that. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there. It is so good to have your company. With us is Laurie Laird, economist and US political commentator, and we're going through the front pages. We've had a look at the Times now. Trump, The Guardian's front page. I was saved by God to make America great again. That got a standing ovation as well. Returning President pledges golden age in inauguration address. Immigrants targeted as a flurry of executive orders are signed within hours. He said Donald Trump was sworn in for the second time as US president in Washington, promising a blitz of executive orders, a radical shake-up of the global order, and what he called a golden age of America. And that was during the Stars and Stripes, wasn't it? The national anthem, because he's saluting. There you go. As Commander-in-Chief, he's entitled to do so.
I think that's probably the most gripping headline. I mean, he actually said this. This came right after talking about how he had had the most...
it plays to the MAGAs, doesn't it?
Well, it was after he mentioned that he had the most difficult time of any president in the history of the Republic, talking about his assassination attempts, talking about the political cases against him. And he really did make that link that somehow he has some divine right to be president. It was quite a... I mean, there were so many things in that speech to pick apart, but it really was a remarkable thing to say.
The other story, and it doesn't take prominence on The Guardian, which I'm a little bit shocked about. In fact, I'm shocked about... Oh, I think... here we go. Donald Trump in making his speech as 47th President of the United States at the inauguration parade.
So now the work begins. We won, but now the work begins. We have to bring them home. And, you know, tonight I'm going to be signing on the J6 hostages, pardons, to get them out. And as soon as I leave, I'm going to the Oval Office and we'll be signing pardons for a lot of people, a lot of people. And thank you to Steve Witkoff. He's a great guy. He's a friend of mine. He's been a very successful man. He's a great negotiator. He's a wonderful guy. People love him. And he's got a tremendous power of persuasion. And that's what we need. We don't need stiffs. We don't need stiffs. We got a lot of stiffs. You just had a whole load of them. And to the former hostages with us today, welcome. And welcome home. Some of the folks are former hostages, not a good situation. The three young ladies that came home yesterday, you saw that, and more coming home every day now. They're coming home. But they were hurt. They were hurt. They were hurt. One had her head blown off, fingers on her hand, and her hand indeed was blown off. She was trying to defend herself from a bullet being fired. Do you believe this? A bullet knocked off her hand. I don't know. You look at it, it's a disgrace. We never stopped praying for you, and we're so glad that you're reunited with your friends and families, and God bless you all. And some of them are just saying, no, my son is gone, but please just bring home his body. Right, Steve? Many of you have told me that your son is gone, but bring home his body. It should have never happened. 3 years, it's ridiculous. Should have never happened. Wouldn't have happened. I also want to express my tremendous gratitude to the hundreds of thousands of proud American patriots who came from all across the country to join us in this celebration. It's a celebration of a big win. And you're witnessing the dawn of the golden age of America. That's what it's going to be. We're bringing it back. We're going to bring it back fast. We're going to bring it back fast. Let us also thank the incredible service members, National Guardsmen, police, Secret Service, and law enforcement personnel who are keeping us all safe, even though, and they are great people. New York's finest. I grew up with New York's finest, and we got to give them their authority back. You won't have any crime. There'll be no crime. You give them little authority back. The whole The way they run things in this country now, it's disgraceful. But it's going to change rapidly. We're going to make our cities safe again, too. Even though we're indoors, we've had a magnificent inaugural parade. And let's give a big round of applause. They were great. To all of the incredible performers and hardworking men and women who made it possible. Those people, really talented, amazing people. I also want to thank my wonderful family for being here, especially my beautiful wife, our First Lady, Melania. They love our First Lady. And also, JD. How good has JD been? And his beautiful wife, Usha. How good is JB? JD has been great. He's another good negotiator, Steve. He's a great negotiator, too. We need negotiators in this country. But so many of the people on the stage behind, not only family members, as an example, Lara Trump, the wife of Eric. She was the head of the Republican Party, along with my friend Michael. Stand up, the two of you. What a job. What a job they did. They worked so hard. They knew there'd be rigging, but they said, we're going to make it too big to rig, and we did. We made it too big to rig. We won every swing state by a lot. We won the popular vote by millions and millions of votes. We won the whole ball of wax. And now we're going to go and drill, baby, drill, and do all the things that we've wanted to do and bring your costs down, your prices down, and make our country safe. So thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much. What a job you've done, Michael. I'm never moving you, you know. He was thinking about getting a nice job in the administration. I said, no, I'm leaving you right where you are. You've done a very good job. We're not moving you, Michael. I'm sorry. Anyway, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. Right here with us also in the arena, I'm about to sign some very important executive orders of our new administration. Hey, Don, will you stand up, please? Don is another one. How about Don? This guy. He's a popular one. He goes out and speaks. He gets a big crowd. He's a little on the rough side sometimes, but that's what you want. He's done a fantastic job, and he loves our country. Thanks, Don. Great job. You've done a great job. And Ivanka. And, you know, Jared negotiated the Abraham Accords, which are the biggest, it's the biggest deal made in the Middle East in many, many years. And it's really something. Jared, stand up, Jared. The Abraham Accords. And Tiffany's going to have a little baby. And Michael. And then I have a very tall son named Barron. Has anyone ever heard of him? Thank you. He knew the youth vote. You know, we won the youth vote by 36 points. And he was saying, Dad, you got to go out and do this one and that one. And we did a lot of them. And he respects them all. He understood them very well. And he said, Dad, you got to go out, do Joe Rogan, do all these guys. And we did. We did, and Joe Rogan was great. They were all great, right, Darren? They were all good. He understood the market. Another famous one, how about Kai? Stand up, Kai. Is that Byron Donalds back there? Stand up, Byron. Stand up.
Okay, so that is the 47th President of the United States. Just thanking actually everybody in the room. It could take some time. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a very quick break and then we're going to come back. I'm desperate to know which executive orders that he's signing. So we will come back and hopefully cross back to him when he starts to do that. So bear with us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, just checking what's happening in Washington, where the 47th President of the United States is addressing supporters at the inaugural parade there. He's just rounding up and talking about what he's going to sign with these executive orders. So we'll cross back live to the President of the United States.
Okay, remember? Do you remember a little statement about tips? Does anybody remember that little statement? I think we won Nevada because of that statement, but they went out and harassed you over the tips. In other words, we are restoring control of our government to the people. We're going to take those 88,000. Let's see if they'd like to work on the border, because that's where we want them, really. So we're going to have no tax on tips, right? No tax on tips. We may have, like the Speaker of the House, is he here? He's done such a good job. Is Mike here? He's around here someplace. I saw him just a little while ago. Hello, fellas. Look at you guys. Yeah, I know it. He's great. He's doing great. They're all doing good. The Republican Party has never been unified like it is right now. They want to save our country. And we're going to more than save it. We're going to make it greater than it's ever been before by a lot. Next, I'm going to sign a presidential memorandum directing every member of my cabinet to marshal every power at their disposal to defeat inflation and rapidly bring down the cost of daily life, because your costs have gone through the roof in the last 4 years. Perhaps you didn't notice. Does anyone notice their costs are like double, triple, quadruple? You can't buy bacon. Apples have doubled in price. You want an apple, anybody? Pay twice what you did 2 years ago. We'll put more money in your pocket, and we'll bring back the American dream and to reduce energy costs and liberate our economy. So we have more oil and gas than any country in the world, and we're going to use it. We're not going to do the wind thing. Wind, big ugly windmills, they ruin your neighborhood, they ruin you. If you have a house that's near a windmill, guess what? Your house is worth less than half. And did you see up in New England with the whales? You see what's happening? So they had 2 whales killed in about 14 years. Last year and the year before, total, they had 28. So if you're into whales, you don't want windmills either. And they're the most expensive form of energy that you can have by far. And they're all made in China, by the way, practically all of them. And they kill your birds and they ruin your beautiful landscapes. But other than that, I think they're quite good, right? Now, remember when we used to joke and kid when we were kidding, but we don't kid anymore? They want to watch the debates on television. They want to watch your favorite president on television. But the wind isn't blowing, so we can't watch television that night, Gladys. Remember? Gladys, I'm sorry, the wind is just not blowing. We're not watching Trump tonight. But I'm immediately withdrawing from the unfair, one-sided Paris Climate Accord ripoff. The United States will not sabotage our own industries while China pollutes with impunity. You know, China, I mean, look, they use a lot of dirty energy, but they produce a lot of energy. And when that stuff goes up in the air, you know, it doesn't stay there. It's not like you got a wall. We love walls, don't we? Not like you have a wall around and it doesn't. It floats into the United States of America after 3.5 to 5.5 days. It floats across the oceans and it comes right over your neighborhood and it falls into your neighborhood. So they all say, we have to fight for cleaner air, but the other dirty air is dropping all over us. So what the hell are they talking about? Unless everybody does it, it just doesn't work. You know, we had the cleanest air and the cleanest water that this country's ever had under the Trump administration, and we didn't do anything to stop jobs and stop production. Believe me, you're going to see a lot of companies come pouring back because tariffs. I always say tariffs is the most beautiful word to me in the dictionary. Then I was reprimanded by the fake news. They said, what about love, religion, and God? I said, I agree. Let's put God number 1. Let's put religion number 2. Love, I don't know. We got to put that number 3, I guess, right? And then it's tariff. Because tariffs are going to make us rich as hell. It's going to bring our country's businesses back that left us. And I'll also sign an executive order to immediately end federal government censorship of the American people. In America, we believe in free speech, and we're bringing it back starting today to stop the weaponization. Oh, do I know about that, these creeps? Deranged Jack Smith. You ever hear of him? Deranged. He's a deranged prosecutor. He's sick. They suck him on me. He's now been reduced to getting on an airplane, going back to The Hague or wherever the hell he came from. We got to get rid of that guy. Hey, was he one of the many people that got a pardon today? Did they pardon Jack Smith? You know, did you know that Biden, while I was making my speech, pardoned his whole family? The brother, the whole deal was pardoned. Can you imagine that? While I was making my speech. Did everybody hear my speech? Did you like my speech? Thank you. I mean, the only thing wrong with it is I had a lot of tough things to say, and I have some great people that work for me. Sir, this is such a great speech. It's so unifying. Don't talk about Biden with his pardons of his family. We want a unified country. They said, don't talk about the J6 hostages that you're going to be releasing today. Sir, don't put that in your speech, please. I said, but I want to put it in my speech. I said, sir, it won't be unified like it is. It's so beautiful the way it is. And it is getting great reviews. You know, if I put things like that in, I'll get terrible reviews. One little paragraph that's a little bit wrong, the fake news goes crazy, right? So I said, all right, I won't put it in my speech, but you know what? I'm speaking in front of a hell of a lot of people at a place called Capital One Arena, and I'll talk about it there. So we're going to be going over the beautiful Oval Office, one of the great offices in history. Even if it wasn't beautiful, it's the Oval Office, but it is beautiful. And we love the Oval Office. It all starts with the wars start and end there. Everything starts and ends at the Oval Office. We love it. But we're going to go to the Oval Office. We're going to release our great hostages that didn't do, for the most part, they didn't do stuff wrong. You take a look at what went on, and look what happens in other parts of the country. In Portland, where they kill people, they destroy the city, nothing happens to them. In Seattle, where they took over a big chunk of the city, nothing happened. Minneapolis, where they burned down the city, nothing happened. Essentially nothing happened. All they want to do is go after the J6 hostages. A 76-year-old grandmother was arrested the other day because she was looking, I think because she was looking at the Capitol or something like that. No, we're not going to put up with that crap anymore. And to stop the weaponization of law enforcement, I've been investigated more than any human being in the world. I believe I have the all-time record. Every day a subpoena. Every single day would get subpoenas. I was more than any person. Alphonse Capone, remember I used to talk about it? Now, Alphonse Capone, Scarface, he was a pretty rough guy. He was investigated about 1/100th what Trump was investigated. My father's looking down at me, my mother, how the hell did this happen? You know what it is? They investigated their political opponent, the opponent of Biden, and then ultimately Kamala. Has anyone ever heard of Kamala? We had to beat two opponents, you know? We had to beat Biden, then we beat him. Now he goes on top. The guy was like 39 points down. I think I could have beaten Trump. They should have left me and I would have beaten. No, his debate performance wasn't the best, right? That's what killed him. And then they had to change, and that's like you get into a fight. The great Dana White spoke last night. We love Dana White, right? UFC. That's like he puts in two fighters, one of them's getting creamed, getting really beaten, and they say, all right, take him out, let's put somebody else in to finish up the fight. That's what they did to us. They gave us somebody new, but we took care of both of them. So we beat actually two opponents. But to stop the weaponization of law enforcement and our government, I will also sign an order directing every federal agency to preserve all records pertaining to political persecutions under the last administration, of which there were many, and beginning the process of exposing any and all abuses of power, even though he's pardoned many of these people. Can you believe it? He's pardoned them. You know why he did it while I was speaking? Because that way I couldn't speak about it. I was speaking. I didn't know he did it. I finished my speech, and they said, sir, he pardoned his whole family. I said, oh, can I go back out there and talk about it? Somehow that wouldn't be very elegant. Our First Lady would say, please don't do that. But we have plenty of time to talk about it, and we will. We're doing all of this on our very first day in office. You know, don't forget, we've been in this position, really, where we won the primaries in record time. We were the fastest win of a primary ever in political history, which is a very nice thing. It's nice to know. Well, the second election was rigged, so we knew we were doing well. And if it wasn't, you know what? If it wasn't, I would have never run. But the third one was just a monster. Boy, was that a big one, huh? That was a big one. On the second one, we got like 10 or 12 million votes more than the first one. How about that? We did great on the first one. We did much better on the second one. But bad did we do well on the third one. So we're gonna have some fun. It's very simple. We're gonna make our country great. We're gonna make our country great again. We're gonna make America great again. How good a name is MAGA, though, right? You know? I was going to say, keep America great, but unfortunately it wasn't great. Can't say keep it great. It will be great again, but CAG, keep America great, CAG, I don't think it's ever going to replace MAGA. Does anybody like CAG? I don't think so. It's never replacing MAGA. Nothing will ever replace MAGA. MAGA was the most successful political operation, political movement in the history of our country, maybe in the history of the world. Let's see what happens, because we're not finished yet. We're not finished yet. We got a long way to go. But we're doing this on the very first day in office, and in just a few moments, I'm not only signing the release of the J6 hostages, I'm signing other things that you're going to love. Oh, you're going to be happy reading newspapers tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. So I just want to thank, I mean, look at this place. It's full to the rafters. You don't have any. Look at those people up there. You don't have any empty seats. And by the way, the Capital One owners, they are so good. We got to root for their teams because they have been so great to MAGA, to us. And I just want to thank Ted and everybody. You guys have been fantastic. And the ice hockey team's doing great. Ovechkin's pretty good, right? They're doing great. So I want to thank them, Capital One arena owners. They have been absolutely fantastic. And thank you once again to everyone. And I can only tell you, you're going to be very happy. You're going to watch a lot of good things happen. We got to stop some wars that are happening and going on. Some stupid things are happening. The war with Ukraine would have never happened, and it has. As you know, Israel would have never been hit on October 7th, and none of you would be up here. None of you would even know anything about this tragedy that you're going through right now. But Iran was broke. Anybody that bought oil from Iran, they couldn't do any business with us. You're not going to do business with America. China passed. Everybody passed. They were broke. They didn't have money for Hamas. They didn't have money for Hezbollah. And your sons would be alive, and they certainly wouldn't be incarcerated like they are. It's a shame, but we're getting a lot of people out in a short period of time. So I'm going to go right over to here, and I'm going to sign in front of you. Is that okay? Good.
Okay, so it looks like President Trump, although I thought the executive orders were actually in front of him on the podium there, but he's just saying, greeting all of those that, if you can't see this, are wearing yellow scarves. These are the hostages, or the family of the hostages held by Hamas. So he's just going down the line now to greet those people and speak to them. But I wonder where he's going to sign these executive orders. Of course, the first executive order he's going to sign is going to be to release what he referred to as the hostages that are being held from the January 6th riots. He said they did nothing wrong. Now, my understanding is that those who were convicted of non-violent aggression on that day will be released without any conditions, whereas those who were violent or found guilty of any violence will be released with conditions. So there is Donald Trump now with his pens. He's got a row of pens which he tends to give away. These are very special, these pens, once you sign an official order. We see this in the Oval Office all the time, and they have photographs with holding this pen. So he's signing an executive order now. Laurie, these you reckon will be the smaller ones, but the J6 hostages or prisoners will be released today, he says, by the close of play today.
Well,
there he is.
He's got a
signed
stack. What's that look like? Maybe a dozen, maybe a little bit less. And he's sort of let us know, I can't see the text there, what he's interested on. The first one he said he was going to sign was no taxes on tips. So retail
Popular.
workers, hotel workers.
Good. That's a good one. I like that one. I'm happy with that.
It was a campaign pledge for him.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a big question. Why, if you're giving someone tax relief, what about people who make an equivalent amount without tips? You can look at this a couple of different ways, but it is a campaign
It's
promise.
a very popular one as well, and it's small, but it's meaningful.
Well, particularly in Nevada, the state of Nevada, which he figured he had to win, where so much of that state, so much employment is dependent on hospitality. And Kamala Harris actually followed Donald Trump with that one as well. So that was always going to happen. The other one that he mentioned, and this one's real vague, one executive order on every member of the cabinet has to marshal all their powers to reduce inflation. It's a little vague there.
It is, and it leaves the question, especially for an economist like you, as to what, in fact, can they do?
I don't know what, say, the head of national intelligence is going to be able to do to reduce inflation, but maybe we can discuss it after the next break. So there are a couple that he mentioned. He talked about ending censorship. Wasn't
free speech. I think there was that related perhaps to TikTok.
That one came a little bit out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I have to say, I found that speech a little bit difficult to follow. It was quite wide-ranging.
It was traditional Trump at a rally, wasn't it? He was playing to his crowd. This crowd love him, and he was saying a lot of things. And ping pong. This we're used to ping pong.
He calls it the weave.
Oh, does he?
He pulls all disparate ideas together into one grand.
The thing that I found interesting was that he is convinced that his speech that he gave on inauguration was unifying.
Unified, yeah, I've written that down too. He said that people said, "Sir, it's such a great speech, it's so unifying," and now. With this speech, he feels that he's having unified the country earlier today.
Yeah, he's unleashed.
He doesn't have to worry about doing that again.
But look, the crowd absolutely love him, and the January the 6th release of those prisoners is an extremely popular win for him, and quite an easy executive order for him to sign. He's basically pardoning them, which he can do.
He's pardoning the non-violent, and he's commuting the sentences of the ones who are violent. So
it is within his power to do that. So they will be
Yes,
released.
it is. So I presume we will see pictures. I mean, there have been crowds of people outside some of the prisons where people are being held. I presume we're going to see jubilant crowds. Within a very short period of time. It's a shame that we can't. We don't know the order in which
he's just signing them, and we're not being told actually in what order they are going out.
No, he's not narrating his actions, but I'm sure we'll get that quite soon.
We'll get that. Just very quickly before we go to the break, what is this deal with the pens that you gift
This is
them?
historic. And then he tends to give it to somebody who is related to whatever that executive order is. So I wouldn't be surprised if the pardoning the J6 criminals, perhaps that pen will go to the family of somebody who has been
I see. And they are significant.
Up.
They're collector's items, are they?
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, we can check eBay for the resale value.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, the use of executive order has become so popular over the past couple of administrations. We can probably see what the secondary market's doing.
So he's down to his last one here, but he has promised he will go straight back to the Oval Office and he will be signing more there. We've got to take a very quick break, but listen, I've just signed my name on this. You can have my pen if you like.
I can check the resale value.
Yeah,
thanks, Petrie. I'll get it after the show.
In a sec.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, you're with Petrie, and with me is Laurie Laird, who's an economist and US political commentator. We will come back to have a look at those executive orders and what they mean in a while. But first of all, I do want to go back through the papers. If we have a look at the Daily Mail, there's obviously Donald Trump on the front there. It is extraordinary how interested we are in American presidents and American politics. So, you know, normally I would get complaints going, well, it's in America, why are we bothered? But it really does impact the globe, doesn't it? So he's on the front page. But the other story, which I expected to take the kind of prominence that it has done on the Daily Mail, is this Southport killer plotted a massacre at his old school. Now, this is Axel Rudakubana, who plotted Britain's first high school massacre a week before his knife rampage. Now, he surprised, I think, the judge, who spent quite a lot of time, I suspect, putting together a jury and a team of people. He didn't turn up, but by video link, he pled guilty.
And it's, I think, important you mention this, because the Daily Mail is the only paper that put this as their lead story, and they used the inauguration as a picture caption, but Southport killer plotted massacre at his old school was the front page here. And I think, you know, we expected today to see routine jury selection.
Yeah,
we didn't expect there to be a verdict today.
And I think there's a lot of people actually will be really upset by this, because this way we don't get to find out why he did it. You know, what the plotting was. We don't get the details. The families weren't necessarily in court today because they were expecting jury selection. They weren't expecting that the you know, a guilty verdict. I mean, he will be sentenced on Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
The one thing I do know about the sentencing on Thursday is he cannot be given a full life tariff, and that will upset a lot of people, and that's because he's under the age of 21. So he is likely to get 3 life sentences to run concurrently, consecutively. I always get those wrong way around. But anyway, he's likely to get those sentences. There's also a link to terror. He pled guilty to producing ricin. He pled guilty to having a jihadi terror manual. So he's pled guilty, and to attempted murder of the adults and 8
But the charge sheet, even beyond the murder charges, was quite extensive. I hadn't been aware of the ricin. I hadn't been aware of so many other things that were going on, and there had been visits from the police prior to this terrible, terrible event, and I don't think we were aware of the full extent of the potential danger.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff, but we will that I fear that we won't know, and that we deserve to know. And we know that Keir Starmer is giving a speech, a press conference tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock.
Very early in the morning. I'd love to know the decision for that timing.
Yes, indeed. On this, there is some suggestion, of course, that he's somewhat relieved that this has ended the way that it has with these guilty verdicts, and that his part, if any were played, won't be dug into. But we will wait and see. This murderer was referred 3 times to prevent, and Starmer says that the state failed the victims. There's so much to uncover about this, and they will hopefully will learn more in the coming days. But it's not a given. Laurie, I'm gonna let you go to the loo. You can leave the studio for at least a few moments, and I will be back with you in just a few moments. So thank you, Laurie Laird. Now, coming up in the next hour, we will continue to have a look at some of the executive orders that Donald Trump has signed. This promise to bring down inflation. Since we've got an economist in the studio, it would be remiss remiss of me not to ask her how that can be done with some of the other things that Donald Trump is insisting that he's going to do to make America great again. Everybody wants him to succeed, but how can he, if he's going to add tariffs, which we know will increase the prices of things in America, how is that going to work? Is he using those tariffs really as a bargaining chip? If he is, he's done a really good job of that, because people are so scared of tariffs now, they'll probably agree to almost anything. So there'll be more of that we're going to discuss, plus your calls, of course. So give me a call. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. Do you wish we had Trump here? Is that your ideal? Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good morning to you. This is Petrie with you through until 1 o'clock, and we're talking about the inauguration, of course. Donald Trump, the 45th and now the 47th President of the United States of America. He won by a lot, bigly. He won the popular vote, which he didn't win the first time, and he was really grumpy about that, but he won it this time, and he won the Electoral College. I mean, it was, I worked on the election night. It was I mean, I think I could have called a Trump win by about 10:30 our time, certainly 11:15. It was so obvious, wasn't it, that he was doing so well. So America now has the president that at least half of them chose. But what's that going to look like as we go forward? Is this good for us? Is this good for the UK? We have to be a little bit selfish, don't we? We have to look at Donald Trump and go, OK, what he does in America is what he does in America. But how is that going to affect us here? And is he going to set aside any issues that he or Musk have with Keir Starmer and the Labour government? He's not forgiven Keir Starmer for the Labour party members that went across to the United States to help Kamala Harris with envelope stuffing and things like that. Although that is quite common, that does happen with American elections. But anyway, he was angry about it then. He referred to it as interference in a foreign election, which is strictly frowned upon across the world. So he's not happy with Starmer. In fact, Starmer wasn't invited, and Boris Johnson was, Liz Truss was, Priti Patel was, but Starmer wasn't. In fact, I didn't see any senior Labour people there. So what does that mean for us? Starmer wants to have a meeting with Donald Trump, he said, within the next couple of weeks. He's already been told that's not possible. So now he's got to wait, like a jilted lover, for Trump to make the next move. You know what it's like where you've already said, can I see you? And you go, can I see you? And they go, no. And then you think, oh, I can't ask again. It's embarrassing now. So you have to wait for them to call you and go, yeah, come over now. So that's pretty much the situation that we're in right now. So what does the future look like for that special relationship? Chris has called from Epsom. Chris, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Petrie. Nice to talk to you again.
And to you. I'll ask you that question first. That special relationship, has Starmer blown it?
Well, let me first say that I thought Trump's inaugural speech was spot on. He ticked every box. He's kept his promises along the campaign line. And he's gone into office as Trump 2.0. You know, the first time round, he wasn't ready for it. You know, they were talking about, you know, he has to appoint something like 200 people, and they have to appoint 1,000 people. It's ludicrous. Ludicrous. We get stuck with the same swamp year after year, no matter who's in charge.
Yeah. The civil service, yeah.
Yeah, it is trouble. Well, look. Off track here, but Starmer's just sent Ollie Robbins, right? The man that negotiated the wonderful Brexit deal that we had to talk to Europe again. Right? We know which way Starmer leans. Him and the whole of the front bench have badmouthed Trump, including Mandelson. Who's Mandelson to badmouth anybody? The man that gets sacked not once but twice for lying to Parliament. All right, he ain't called the Prince.
Well, it looks like Trump might veto his appointment.
I've got a claim to fame here, Petrie. I've been using X a lot, and there's a couple there that you might read that I'll send to you tonight. Yeah, you'll find them interesting. Hamza Youssef was going on about women and children and the way they're kept in Palestinian prisons. So I sent a list of the prisoners that they've had to agree to release.
Well, I mean, look at the women kept in captivity in Afghanistan. Yeah, if we're going to go down that road,
exactly. But I think Trump is a realist. He's definitely a deal maker, and I think he'll make Starmer squirm a bit. The special relationship is still there. The Americans. I watched Alex Phillips earlier tonight, which gave me real pride in what this country is and not our parliament is. She was saying that Americans were going up to her and saying, "Hey, look, we read about what's going on, the rape gangs and the woke and the this and the that. What can we do to help you to get rid of this nonsense?" That gives me faith that we still have a special relationship. I mean, I have American cousins. I've lived in America. I think Trump will get over or let Starmer come back from his bad mouthing.
Do you think he'll have to? Do you think they've always said about Trump that if Starmer is prepared to grovel and apologise, then Trump will forgive him?
I don't think he'll make him grovel, because that's not how you get a deal done.
Well, he doesn't need to go public with it, right? He could do it on the phone and go, "Look, Trump, I'm really, really sorry. You're the big man. I'm not." And a lot of people have suggested that's the only way that it will work with Trump. Loads of people, even Trump's spokespeople have said if you apologise to him, he's very gracious.
Yes, I mean, Nigel's very close to him, and Nigel said exactly the same. Look at the stuff Vance said about him earlier on, and now
and Musk.
They're like three peas in a pod.
Yeah, they are now because they must have apologised to him.
Look, he's a deal maker. He knows what he wants to achieve. He knows the mistakes he made the first time, and he's not going to make them the second time.
I do think he's better prepared this time. I do believe that. He knows the law better, and he knows that there's some executive orders he's not going to be able to sign. That's why he didn't mention the naturalisation of children born in the United States, that they immediately get American citizenship, because that is in the Constitution. So he's probably been told, look, don't mention that again, because the likelihood of you ever doing that is second to none, right? You can't.
It does. Petrie, it does make sense, because they were 20 years ago. They were called anchor children in New York. You know, they, as long as they got onto American soil and had a child, then the parents couldn't be deported.
But it's, I mean, in Germany, for example, the child takes the nationality of the parent, of the mother. You don't become German if you're born in Germany. The reason I know this is because my son was born in Germany accidentally, they're very clear to point out that he's not German, and he takes the nationality of the mother. So that does already exist, but it is in the Constitution, and for him to change the Constitution is opening a can of worms. He's probably not going to be able to do that one.
It is a big thing, and it may be down the line, because don't forget, the Supreme Court is loaded in the favour of the Republicans.
They still won't touch the Constitution. I can't see it.
Well, there's been amendments. There has been amendments.
Well, the Second Amendment is an amendment. Yes, I mean, yes, you can amend, but I think that would take longer than 4 years for him to implement in that regard, if you're going to start amending parts of the Constitution legally.
Yeah, I think that's not top of his hit list.
Yeah.
But the thing I want to talk about is Mandelson, right? How can you have an ex-EU commissioner, right, a man that's lied to Parliament twice, and that's not what's going to make Trump veto him? You know what's going to make Trump veto him?
What?
I see you don't read my messages.
Well, I'm on air. What do you want me to do? Right, I'll read it now. You carry on. God. I haven't got time while I'm broadcasting. Oh, you'd love that if I was going, hang on a minute, I'm reading a message.
Because the Prince of Darkness is the same as our Prince Andrew. He consorted and stayed with Epstein after he was jailed for trafficking young girls for sex. And
I don't know this to be factual. Where did you get that from?
Oh, it's absolute fact. Just Google it. It's there. It's there for all to see.
Okay.
Now he may know where the bodies were buried because of his association with Epstein.
What, Trump?
No. Mandelson.
Well, Trump also had an association, didn't he?
Which is why he's managed to survive so long. But when Mel Gibson, who's got a good relationship with Trump, and they've just announced Mel Gibson and Wahlberg. Mark Wallenberg, is it?
Wahlberg. Wahlberg. They're going to be like Hollywood specialists or something.
No. They've just announced that they're putting $3 billion into a new studio that's anti-woke. He's got another set of people that are doing the Hollywood thing. This is a new studio that is for family films that have no woke in them. Now, Mel Gibson has a relationship with both Musk and Trump, and
but isn't Mel Gibson a famous anti-Semite?
No, not at all. That was blown out of proportion because he went through a period of alcoholism, and his film Apocalypsa, which was very Roman Catholic. But no, I don't believe him to be. The thing is that what they've both said is that when Trump gets in the White House, he will have sight of the security services list of people on Epstein's black book. Because, you know, Epstein committed suicide.
Allegedly.
When he was on suicide watch, and the CCTV cameras didn't work.
Yeah, I think the jury's out on that, aren't they? Although we've all come back and gone, nah, that wasn't suicide. He was too much of an ego.
Hang on a minute.
What?
Hang on a minute, Petrie, because you've only got half the story. Jean-Luc Bernard, who was his French counterpart, who ran Elite Models, who was also arrested because he was Trump. He was.
Can we not mention full names? Because I don't have the full facts in front of me, and you're making me very nervous with regards to me being sued.
Okay, I won't mention any names. Well, say supposedly a Frenchman that was his supposed partner.
Right.
Also, and
honestly, you've just given me an absolute heart attack. Whether it's true or not, I've got no substantive facts to back that up. I'm sorry, Chris. You have to understand that I have to be really across the law on this, and I can't. It's just no, I can't. Although you can't really defame a dead person, but anyway, no. I'm sorry, Chris. We will talk again, and I will read your messages, though not when I'm on air. But for now, I'm going to take a quick break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, Chris. Yet again, I'm sorry. I know you're going to send us the details. That's fine, but legally, we're not allowed to take statements, and you wouldn't have heard it anyway because it was dumped. But he made a statement about somebody, and we didn't have the substantiated facts behind that in order for me to accept that as legally correct. So that was what happened there, if you were wondering. Paula is in Halifax. Let's get back to the calls. Paula, hello there.
Hello, my friend.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. Yeah, not bad for a Tuesday.
I did ring up and ask your staff to wish you Happy New Year.
Oh, bless you. I got the message. I hope you
did you?
I hope you had a good one as well.
Yeah, was okay.
Yeah, I know. Listen, talk to me about Trump. What do you think we're going to be heading for in the next 4 years?
Do you know what? I've watched bits of it today. What do they call it when
the inauguration?
That's it. Yeah. I've watched bits of it. Now, when he was last in office, I thought it was an absolute knob.
Right. Okay. Get off the fence, Paul.
Chumps of it all.
Get off the fence. You never say what you mean. All right, so you didn't like him last time. What did you think this time? Do you think he's grown up a bit?
Well, do you know what? Since he's come into, since people knew, the war has stopped in Ukraine and Poland, is it Poland and Ukraine, or is it Russia?
Russia and Ukraine. I don't think it has stopped, Paula.
Oh, I thought it had.
No, I don't think it has stopped. Certainly, if it has stopped, I didn't hear that. But so I don't think it has stopped. No, I think that's going on. I think that Zelensky sent a message to Trump today to congratulate him, Volodymyr Zelensky from Ukraine, and he'll be wondering what Trump is going to do next. I mean, Trump did say that he would end that war on his first day, I think the first 24 hours.
Yeah, we did.
I don't know that that's going to be entirely possible, but I wish him luck with that, providing the Ukrainians don't have to give up sovereign territory for it. But look, we don't know he might be just what America needs right now, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the first time he was in office, I just thought, what an absolute dickhead. But, sorry, you know me, Petrie, I say it as it is. But I thought, what an absolute idiot.
Look, he may, I think, do you know what? We can't condemn him. We can't condemn him. This is what America chose, and maybe they were right to choose him. Look, if he's going to get rid of the woke, we all hate the woke, right? So maybe if there's some sense poured into that in the future, maybe it'll come over here. Although I don't hold out much hope while we've got Starmer in control, but. Maybe things will change.
I voted for him, Petrie. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but don't blame me.
We shouldn't allow you to vote, really, should we? Oh, you are sweet. Listen, Paula, you always say it as it is. You terrify my production team, but I'm happy with you. So thank you for your call. Let's just talk to Robert in Hertfordshire. Robert, a very good morning to you. You're not really worried about the friendship between America and Britain for now?
No, because there won't be a special relationship because Starmer will be gone by the end of the year. Simple as that. So you just got to worry about the person who's going to take over.
Angela Rayner.
Well, I don't think so. I think what's going to happen, the four musketeers will all go. You know, it'll be Lammy, it'll be
they'll all be gone, you reckon?
Remember the other ones, they're so insignificant. Lammy,
Rachel, what's the name from accounts?
Rachel
Reeves from accounts.
She'll be gone.
And Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner, isn't it? That's the.
Yeah, I'll tell you why Lammy will go. Let me ask you a question, right? Do you think this government will let Shamima Begum back into the country? Yes or no? That's all I want, a yes or no. I'll say yes.
I'm going to say yes as well.
Have to go. That's why Lemmy's going to have to go, because he's denied that he'll ever let her back in.
I think we won't have a choice.
Yeah, do you think she'll be let back in?
I do. I don't think we have a choice. In terms of international law.
Stop making excuses. Stop making excuses for the government.
I'm not making excuses for the government. I'm just saying that I think they will come up against a cropper when they try to deny her to come back to the UK. I don't think they'll be allowed to.
But she's a terrorist sympathiser.
I agree. Do I think she should be? No. But do I think she'll have to be at some point? Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry about it. I got you off the subject, but I think this Trump, I'm not a great Trump fan.
Right.
I think this Trump is a much more polished one than he was before. This guy means business. And before, when he was in office, the press didn't leave him alone every single day. There was,
I think he was. I think he was as surprised as everybody else when he won. I genuinely do think that the first time round he was like, "Oh my God, now I'm president of the United States. I don't know what I'm going to do." But this time he knows, and he seems to have purpose.
What I think is what we need. We had a conversation, me and you, a few weeks ago, and you said to me, He's more. Maybe it's what the world needs. Someone who's more nuttier than the nutty world leaders. Now, I think the leaders of China, Russia, and Iran, they'd be very, very wary of him. And it's just what before America, the president before was just a dribbling basket case. I mean, I'm not being, but he was.
Listen, do I think that Biden instilled fear into world leaders? No. But because Trump, and I remember the conversation I had with you actually, because Trump is this sort of maverick in a way, and when he says there'll be all hell to pay, they don't quite know. They know that's not. They're going to get a strong talking to from a diplomat, right? So, but they don't quite know what that means, and I think that fear that other leaders have of Trump is no bad thing.
But I think a lot of the things he said. The thing with Trump is that with Starmer, Starmer's a solicitor or he's a lawyer. With Trump, he's a businessman. That's the big difference.
He's kind of not done that brilliantly business-wise. I know I keep saying he's this businessman. I mean, he's been bankrupt so many times. He's not.
I know, and his dad got him out there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I'm a self-made man. When my dad gave me 20 million or whatever it was his father gave him to start his first business. People saying he's a businessman, but he has been bankrupted. He hasn't done that brilliantly as a businessman. So I don't know why that always seems to be the argument.
Well, he's got something now that he didn't have in his first term, and that's Elon Musk. That's as simple as that.
Well, for as long as they stay friends, which the jury is now, we're starting to take bets on their first fallout. But this department of what was it called, of waste or whatever. And it was going to be Elon Musk and a guy called Ramaswamy, I think. He's already gone.
Oh.
So, I don't know who they're going to replace. Yeah, he's already gone.
That's what we need over here, isn't it? That's what we need over here. What a great department to have over here.
I think we've just assigned one, actually, but it's the Department of a Waste of Money or whatever. And the authorities have had a look at it and said, it's a waste of money. The waste of money department is a waste of money. So, you literally couldn't make that up. I read that today. Honestly, I swear to you, that is absolutely true. Yeah, I read that.
I want you to make me a promise. We can't say nothing at the moment, but there's a certain case going on. I'm not going to mention it, but it should be over on Thursday.
Right.
When it is over, will you devote a programme to it? Because I'll bet there's loads of things that your listeners and viewers want to say about this particular case.
Yeah, once sentence has been passed, there is nothing to stop a conversation at all. So once sentence has been passed, providing there isn't which I don't think there will be, actually, because he pled guilty. No, yes. Just for you, Robert.
I think it'd be fairly quick. Okay.
Just for you, Robert. I swear I'll do a phone in on that for you.
Well, I won't let you forget it because
I know you won't.
So many things,
but we will do it.
We've all been quiet. What was her name? It was on at 10 o'clock in the morning. When she came on this morning, she gave a great big warning to everybody, all her potential listeners and phone-in-ers, that we can't mention the unmentionable at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, that's just really. I mean, we are bound by. I mean, it's contempt of court. Actually, so it's not Ofcom, it's contempt of court rules, and they are really serious. And for example, if I allowed a contempt of court to happen on my programme, I could go to prison for 3 months. That's how serious it is. Wow. So, and I'm not prepared to do that for anybody.
All right, sorry for getting off the subject, but I just wanted to make sure that
it will happen.
The whole programme.
It will happen. I do promise you.
Yeah, you're going to have to leave it till next week because I think it's Thursday that.
We'll do it. We'll do it next week. Yeah. You can hold me to that.
Then.
All right.
All right then.
All right then. never misses a chance to nail me down, that man. Always. Right, Laurie Laird is still with me in the studio. We do have Cindy from Michigan who's called. Isn't that your hometown? No. All right.
Well, you've known me 10 years.
You're generically American. I just say it's just American. I thought you were Michigan.
I'm every woman.
Philadelphia.
Yeah, which is really far from Michigan.
I should remember that it's the cheese. Yeah.
It's the cheese. I'm all about the cheese.
It's the cheese. We like the cheese. So we'll come back and talk to Cindy in a little while. But interesting calls there. You know, a lot of people expecting Trump to be a better president this time round than he was last time round.
I admire the optimism.
Yeah, but look, at least he knows the system now, right? I think he was surprised the first time he won. It was kind of like,
without a doubt.
He looked like you know, caught in the headlights, going, "Oh my God, what have I done?"
Here's the question, though. It's two-part. I'll try and be quick. How will he be able to hold his coalition together? Not all of the Senate Republicans are as keen on Trump. You've got a lot of more traditional Republicans there. And with each year of his presidency, his patronage wears off a little bit.
Weaker.
Right? Yeah. He can't run again. Does J.D. Vance become the heir apparent? Does he become powerful? Can Trump continue to influence the party? Because Trump has full control over the Republican Party right now.
Well, probably
without
for
a doubt.
18 months to 2 years, and then the election starts again.
Until after the midterm elections. But we have a lot of legislators in the House of Representatives, not as much in the Senate, because remember the Senate term is 6 years, so you've got a lot of people who have been there longer. Where we have a 2-year term in the House of Representatives, a lot of Republican legislators in the House have followed on his coattails. They feel beholden to him. But what happens with each year of his presidency? Does he lose control of his party? And then what happens? Does it fracture?
But it's the same here, isn't it? We talk about the first 100 days here, and it really is the same in America. You've got to really nail down, though, because you're never more powerful than you are for those first 100
Without a doubt.
days.
But what Trump at the moment is that on steroids. The control he has over the Republican Party is unlike anything that I can remember. Yes, it will be most important in the first 100 days, but how long will that spell last?
Well, I mean, they owe him a lot.
Some of them do, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Some of them do.
But the Republican Party owe him a lot, because they were not keen on him.
He was able to derail bipartisan legislation on the budget, on immigration, when he wasn't even in office.
Absolutely.
But now that he is elected, now that there aren't coattails there, I'm not entirely sure that you know what? I've got a lot wrong with Trump. He's impossible to predict. But it seems logical that magic that he has over the party may start to dissipate a little bit.
Well, yeah, we're waiting, because you're right. He can't stand again unless he changes the Constitution.
I mean, there are other roles for him in government.
Yeah,
there's nothing to prevent him for running for a Senate seat.
Yeah. There we go. After you've been president, though, why would you? We've got to take a break. Back in a sec.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning. It is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock, and with me is Laurie Laird, who is an economist and US political commentator. And we've got a call from one of your fellow Americans here, Cindy in Michigan, USA. Hello, good morning. How are we?
Hey, Petrie. Hey, Laurie. How are you?
Good morning. No, good evening to you.
No, morning. Oh, evening there.
I know.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
Hello.
Sorry. I mean, good morning.
So, are you happy that you now have a new president?
Petrie, I have to tell you, I was a never Trumper, okay? And now, this happened slowly over time that I started to change my views, and I even resisted, but now I'm convinced. I feel hopeful. I've never felt more excited and energized about a president in my life.
Wow.
This is weird for me. I mean, you know, I think to myself, Trump, you know, but he's won my respect, and over time.
Well, the proof of the pudding will be in the eating, won't it? It remains to be seen how quickly, if at all, he has the levers to reduce inflation, which is an issue across the globe, and therefore make your shopping and everything cheaper. But did you find his inauguration speech particularly unifying? Because he seemed to think it was, and I seem to totally disagree with that.
Oh, I feel the opposite of you, and I'll tell you why. I loved it, actually. I thought it was fantastic because when I was listening to him speak and all the things that he was saying, I felt what he was trying to do was convey. This is how I felt. I felt, oh, he's telling us that he remembers his promises and he's going over them and he's explaining, and he explains in a long way. He does that with everything. And I really felt like he was just going over his promises, saying...
But what I mean by unifying is to unify those... nearly half of America who didn't vote for him. There was no, I felt there was no nod to bringing them with him. He may have unified everyone that voted Trump and to say, look, this is why you voted for me and I'm going to deliver, right? But he didn't feel to me like he was unifying the rest of America that he does need to bring along with him.
Well, here's the thing. Like last time, the first time he ran for office, he didn't get the popular vote.
No, he was upset about that.
He didn't get African Americans the popular vote. He didn't get. This time around, it was the opposite. He won the majority, and I'm an American Hispanic, and my people. He won the majority. He won the majority of Muslim voters. Even remember the Muslim ban.
But I'm talking about those who didn't vote. He didn't seem to bring them with him.
In his speech, he referenced Americans. He referenced, bringing down prices for the people. I feel like he was inclusive.
What do you think,
really
Laurie? There's Laurie here. She's a fellow American, as you know, and from Philadelphia, not Michigan.
Yeah, the cheese.
Yeah, right, the cheese.
But Cindy, what is there one specific Trump policy that spoke to you the most? Of the things, you mentioned that he is, talking about the promises that he intends to keep. What was most important in that list to you? Was it bringing down inflation?
For me, it was getting rid of the wokeness, the ideology that really it's just penetrated America. It's really strange, and it's too far. It's
yeah, I mean,
way
one
too
thing
far.
that he said, Cindy, which really resonated actually with me, is that kids in American schools are taught to hate the country they're from and the people that they are. And I think there's a bit of that goes on in this country too. As a sort of a revisionist of history. There's all this, if you're white and British, you're terrible, you're wrong.
I don't know. I don't know whether that's being taught. My kids didn't go to school there, and I'm a long way away from my American education.
But that is what he said, isn't it, in the speech today, that would no longer be on the curriculum.
That is a big problem, because often on the news they show town halls where parents are very concerned. And this happens a lot, where it's on TV all the time, where they show like a meeting for like where the children their like superintendent council meetings, and the parents show up and they're not happy about it, and then the statues that are being taken down. I mean, I feel personally that we need to teach children really how the truth about history, yes, and to also,
which is not all going to be good. Right? Nobody's history is. Especially if you're a victor in anything, it's never going to be good.
It was a different time back then. And we have to show children that was then, that's how it was, and we need to respect that. We need to respect the heroes that we have had in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a complete believer in teaching history, warts and all, because that's the only way you don't repeat the same mistakes, right?
That's right.
If you learn from them. Listen, I hope you've got the president that you want. Genuinely, none of us want to see Trump fail. Right? None of us do. And I hope he can deliver to you what you want and what you need, because that'll make the world a better place.
It's going to be good for Britain. It's going to be good for Britain, too. And I feel that because I feel that he didn't invite Keir Starmer because he was trying to send a message of, hey, if you don't play nice, I won't play nice, but please play nice. I think it was a little like a hint.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is. You're on the naughty step.
Yes.
Get yourself off it.
And I think that also, like Keir Starmer, it might put a little pressure on him to wake up and listen to the people and their needs, what they're saying and what they want. I feel like it's Trump has always really liked the British people. And we as Americans,
apparently you're going to get a lot of. Apparently you're going to get a lot of royal visits this year. I was reading that.
Yeah.
As they try to schmooze Trump.
We love the UK. Us Americans, we love the UK.
Well, you're going to probably see William and Kate. I would imagine they will be over there. That will really please Harry and Meghan, won't it?
Yeah. Right, I know.
Uh-oh. Yeah. But yeah, look, I hope that is true, because there's always been a special relationship between the two nations. But Musk has got to tone down I want Starmer out by the end of the year, because it actually hasn't got anything to do with Musk. Right.
Yeah, he's kind of putting his foot a little bit too much in your business.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
What do you make of Elon Musk appears to make back-to-back fascist salutes at the inauguration rally? Did you see that?
I did. What do you mean? Like
he looked like he was doing the Nazi salute. At the
I don't think anyone would really, even if they felt that way, like I don't think they would do that in public. They know better than that, because
got a great photograph here of him doing it. But anyway, look, I think he needs to keep his nose out of our business. But I do think that if Starmer apologises to him, to Trump, then they'll be fine, won't they? They'll get on.
Yeah, it might not even take that. I think it might just take a little bit of respect.
Oh,
like,
a little bit of
A little bit of respect, and it goes both ways, of course.
Yeah.
But
I'm just fascinated to see when Trump will invite Starmer over. I'm not sure it's going to be very soon.
I don't know if he knows who Starmer is. In Trump world, the people who matter are Farage and Boris Johnson, who
were there. Yeah,
I'm sure he knows.
I hope you're right, Cindy.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't want to fall out with you either. We love our American cousins.
That's right. And you know what? I've never felt more optimistic, really, truly. And this is weird for me. I'm saying this about Trump, but he earned my respect over time. And I really didn't like him. I thought he was really an embarrassment before the first time around. I thought, what a buffoon. Oh my God, we need to get him out. I just cringed.
Yeah. Look, he's earned your respect. He earned your vote, more importantly, and I hope he continues to earn your respect, and he gives you exactly what you need and want from him. Cindy, thank you very much indeed. I'm just looking at more images now of Donald Trump. It looks like he's in the Oval Office now, signing away.
This is the office he said it's not that pretty.
Yeah,
part of his rather wide-ranging speech, the third one he made.
Yeah, he's there now. He's there now. Yeah, he's just pardoned 1,500 people related to the January 6th attack. Let's dip in, shall we?
Protecting the American people against invasion, which again deals with the southern border and the unprecedented admission of illegal aliens across the southern border.
What do you see the biggest national security threat to the U.S., Mr. President? What's going to be your priority on foreign policy?
Say?
What's going to be your priority on foreign policy? What do you see as the biggest national
foreign policy is a big statement. I mean, my priority on foreign policy, it's going to be to keep America safe. Very simple. It's a big question, though. That's a very big question.
Who is going to be the first foreign leader that you plan to meet, or who are you going to call tomorrow on your first day?
I've already been meeting people. I've been meeting them. I've been talking to them. I met with Prime Minister Trudeau, who I call Governor Trudeau. I met with numerous foreign leaders. Go ahead.
Sir, this next order relates to the definition of birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment of the United States.
Yeah, that's a good one. Birthright. That's a big one.
What about that one in the course? That one is likely to be passed.
Could be. We think we have good grounds, but you could be right. I mean, you'll find out. It's ridiculous. We're the only country in the world that does this with birthright, as you know. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. But, we'll see. We have very good grounds.
Sir,
people have wanted to do this for decades.
Sir, this is a proclamation declaring a national emergency at the southern border of the United States.
That's a big one. A lot of big ones, huh? You know what that means, right?
President Trump, did President Biden leave you a letter?
He may have. Wait. Don't they leave it in the desk? I don't know. Oh.
What's in there?
Thank you, Peter. It could have been years before we found it. Wow. Thank you.
What does it say on the outside?
Maybe we should all read it together.
Let's read it.
Well, maybe I'll read it first and then make that determination.
That sounds great.
Peter, thank you very much. I may not have seen this for months.
Happy to help with the passing of the torch.
I did. I left him one in the desk just like this.
What are you talking about?
Unification of our country.
There you go, Donald Trump just discovering the letter that the outgoing President Biden left, which is customary to do, in the drawer of the desk. That made me laugh, actually. It was quite a sweet moment when he said that could have been there for months if I hadn't seen that. We're going to just take a quick break, but we're going to come back and discuss some of those orders that we heard being signed there, the big ones. The birthright is the biggest, and even then he was questioned, surely this is going to this won't go through because of the 14th Amendment, and he said, you could be right, but we're going to try anyway. We'll be back in a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and welcome back. We're just watching at the moment Donald Trump in the Oval Office surrounded by a press pack. We're not quite sure who they are, but he's signing executive orders and he keeps talking about signing the big ones, and that was the birthright thing where he's saying that that children born in the United States of America mustn't automatically be given US citizenship. It is actually written into the Constitution. It's the 14th Amendment of, it was 14 on the Constitution, but he's saying although it may be difficult for him to get that through, he's going to try. Laurie?
I think he said that he mumbled a little bit, but and he must be very tired.
He must be knackered.
But I think he said we have some pretty good lawyers.
Yeah.
So whether this is it an appropriate use of legal time, we shall see. But when something is in the Constitution, it can be changed, but it's difficult. It needs a supermajority of both houses. Both federal houses, the House of Representatives
and it has to
and
be
the
argued
Senate.
legally, presumably.
It does. But here's the
take
kicker.
a long time.
It also has to be approved by state legislatures in 3/4 of the 50 states. So that's quite a process. It's a big couple of hurdles to get through.
And there will be Democratic states that are not going to be happy with that. The other one that he signed, he referred to this as being a big one as well, was declaring a state of emergency on the southern border. Again, that may come up with some legal pushback.
I'm certain, and these executive orders were pretty well trailed. So a lot of lawsuits have already are in preparation, may have already been filed. In fact, we spoke a couple of hours ago about the cancellation of an app that allowed asylum seekers to apply before they came for an interview before they came to the U.S. There's already been a lawsuit filed against that. There's already been a lawsuit filed against whether Elon Musk's new department, the Department of Government Efficiency, whether that is being transparent in line with federal laws. So a lot of these things have been in the works, and people were just waiting. The plaintiffs on those cases were simply waiting for that executive order to be signed before filing their lawsuits in whatever jurisdiction. So we'll see a lot of this over the next couple of days.
It'll also be interesting what he intends for troops to do on that southern border. I'm not sure Mexico will be very happy with armed American soldiers on the other side of that border. There will be presumably international laws about things like that, I would have imagined, and so that'll be interesting to see.
Very much so, and this I'm a little out of my league with the law, how military law affects these sorts of things. I mean, one thing I can tell you is that contacts of mine who are well connected in military circles have talked about the real fear that top-level military people have with this administration, because they are afraid of being conflicted between what an administration may ask them to do in fulfilling their military duties and where their legalities last.
So this could be one of those
This could be one of them. And in fact, before all of Donald Trump's people are confirmed, you need temporary heads of the various government departments. And apparently none of Joe Biden's appointees to the Department of Defense wanted to take on that role on an acting basis, awaiting the confirmation of the new Secretary of Defense. I don't know if that's because they were afraid of lawsuits further down, but it's quite possible.
It will also be interesting, of course, because even in his inauguration speech, Donald Trump said he's going to change the Gulf of Mexico to be called the Gulf of America. He could probably do that. But he said also about taking back the Panama Canal. And the Panamanians have already said absolutely no. Now, earlier...
I can't imagine they're going to say super idea.
No, of course not. But also, they said that a while ago, Trump was asked, a couple of weeks, a week or so ago, he was asked if that would mean aggression And he said, I
And
can't
he
take that off the table.
rule it out.
He said, I can't rule
He
that
said
out.
the same with Greenland. And you'll notice that he didn't mention Greenland today. And as an aside, you know, New York City, a very democratic place. A number of my Democratic friends in New York City have offered themselves to be traded for Greenland, and they could be part of Denmark because there are better cycle lanes, things that matter to people in Manhattan.
So look, he's true to his word in some of the executive orders that he's signed. He's certainly going to look like he's doing what he can, and then it'll be, it's the blasted judiciary that has stopped him.
Absolutely, those lefty judges.
Yeah.
Look, I think one thing that's important is that he seems to have downplayed the priority that he is putting on tariffs. Remember tariff, most beautiful word in the English language? Call me tariff man. This was going to be the cornerstone of his economic policy. Instead, all that we've got economically at the moment is a directive, and this is an executive order he signed. That directive we discussed to marshal, that was the language in the executive order, all of the powers of everyone in the cabinet to fight inflation, which is, you know, it's pretty woolly. I'm not sure exactly what that means. But as of yet, we haven't seen anything on tariffs. And a lot of people in the economic community are wondering about this because it was such an important part of Donald Trump's economic policy. Is there dissent within his cabinet appointees? Because most of his economic appointees are fairly mainstream. So is there a lack of agreement on whether this would be an effective way forward for Donald Trump?
He could well be using the threat of tariffs as a means for leverage, and that will probably work. Look, China sent somebody fairly senior over to the inauguration. That what they don't want to see is 60% tariffs on their goods. It may well be a way of him, breaking people to get them to bring them to the table, which is clever.
This is the question we always have with Donald Trump. Do you take him at his word?
Yeah.
Or not? And certainly his nominee for Treasury Secretary has said, calm down a little bit here.
Yeah.
This is a negotiating
Tariffs
tactic.
are an inflationary pressure.
There's a great body of economic evidence that says this, but my God, this is the genius of Donald Trump. I would argue that one of the main, and it was interesting hearing Cindy from Michigan talk about the importance she places on getting rid of things that people consider to be woke. But I would still argue that one of the biggest things in that election was the high inflation that the country experienced under Joe Biden. It's hard to say that was exactly